They say you need more money. I say you need better formation. More money in the wrong hands is like more arrows in a quiver without aim. It will not bring victory, only chaos. Men chase fortune as if it were fleeing them, sprinting toward investments they don't understand, grabbing at side hustles with no formation, no rank, no command. They believe more will solve what only clarity can. I have studied war long enough to know the strongest army does not always win. The best positioned one does. And so it is with wealth. In battle, we call it formation, how the soldiers stand, how the weapons align, how the terrain is used. In life, formation is the system, the structure, the discipline with which you prepare for opportunity. But most people have none. They scatter their energy. They overextend. They fight too many battles at once, hoping one will make them rich. That is not a strategy. That is surrender in disguise. Let me tell you what I've seen. The poor man with a clear formation will outperform the wealthy fool who advances blindly. I've watched men earn great sums and lose them in silence because their formation was built on impulse. I've seen merchants grow kingdoms from nothing, not because they had money, but because they had control. They planned, not for a single win, but for war. They anticipated setbacks. They repositioned when others panicked. They survived where louder men collapsed. Money is a consequence of alignment, not a replacement for it. You believe wealth begins with income. I say it begins with intent. Show me how you move in silence, how you allocate, how you observe, how you react to loss, and I will tell you your future. Your formation is not your job title. It is not your income bracket. It is how you prepare to absorb pressure. In war, the worst formation is one that looks powerful but breaks at first contact. In finance, this is the lifestyle built on borrowed comfort, the spending plan that relies on luck, the investor who mistakes motion for mastery. A weak formation looks busy. It feels productive. But the enemy doesn't care how you feel. The market doesn't wait for your motivation. Only structure survives contact. So look not at how much you make, but at how you stand. Are you stretched thin, or are your resources tight and responsive? Do you move with strategy or with reaction? Are your decisions shaped by vision or emotion? Let me tell you this. The man who commands his resources like an army needs less of them. He does more with less because he wastes nothing. If you seek to win, stop seeking more. Start seeking better. Better understanding, better preparation, better control. That is formation. That is power. Let the others chase more income, more profit, more streams, more noise. Let them flood themselves. Let them drown. You must build silently. Build with formation. Because when the storm comes, and it will, those with better formation will hold the ground while the rest are swept away. When I trained my generals, I never asked them how many troops they had. I asked them how they arranged the ones they already commanded. Because victory was not in numbers. It was in placement, in how the spears lined up, in how the archers staggered, in how the cavalry waited in stillness, held back for the precise moment to strike. And so I ask you now, not how much you earn, but how you've positioned it. You earn 500. What happens to the first 100? Does it disappear in silence, unaccounted for, like the front line running before the charge? You earn 5,000. Does your formation grow, or does your consumption expand to absorb the gain, leaving no more structure than before? If your formation does not change, your fate will not either. I've watched men double their income and stay broke. They believe they need more opportunity. No, they need more order. They need fewer leaks, fewer distractions disguised as progress, fewer maybes crowding their command center. They need formation. In the art of war, we conceal our strongest unit behind the terrain, not in full view. Your emergency fund should not be visible to your temptations. Your investment account should not be exposed to every passing market whisper. If your formation is open, undisciplined, vulnerable, your wealth will not last. Power is not loud. Formation is not flashy. It is the subtle restraint of the archer who doesn't fire until the wind stills. It is the calm of the commander who says no to 10 small battles so he can win the one that matters. That is financial formation, saying no to convenience, to show, to short-term validation. And that's why so many fail. They mistake energy for effectiveness. They run hard, but in the wrong direction. They spend more time looking at what others are doing than tightening their own lines. They seek advice without aligning it to their battlefield. They study success stories like war songs, hoping to be inspired, but never reconfiguring their actual movement. You don't need more fire. You need formation. I've seen poor farmers with better wealth formation than executives. They saved with rhythm. They spent with rules. They reinvested with clarity. And over time, their small earnings became a fortress. You may say, but I don't make enough to build a formation. I say, start small, but start strategically. One coin divided with wisdom is worth more than 10 scattered in emotion. Even a modest income can be shaped into strength. Even a humble household can be organized into wealth. But the moment you give up control, the moment you say, it's not worth it, or it's not enough to matter, you have surrendered the most powerful weapon you have, your formation. Wealth without formation is a battlefield without a plan. You may survive one battle by luck, but you will lose the war. So pause, not to chase, but to align. Take stock of your positions. Where do you leak? Where do you overspend, not in money, but in attention, in energy, in emotional volatility? Where are your weak points exposed? You do not need to become perfect. You need to become structured. Like the turtle formation I once ordered, slow, heavy, indestructible, you must become a system that withstands attack, that holds firm when others break, that outlasts the charging cavalry of inflation, impulse, and opinion. Better formation is your wealth strategy. Not louder, not faster, not richer, better. Because better wins more than more. Every general who lost under my command had one thing in common. They moved too soon, or they moved without structure. Formation is not just how you stand. It's when you stand and when you don't. It is the discipline to wait until the terrain shifts in your favor. The discipline to say, not yet, when every other voice screams, now or never. And so it is with your finances. Formation is not a spreadsheet. It is a posture. It is the way your mind holds its stance under pressure, the way your choices resist the enemy called urgency. How many men have I seen fall, not to defeat, but to their own rushing? They had resources, they had tools, but they had no patience, and so their army marched into ambushes of their own making. In this modern war of wealth, the same mistake is made daily. A young man, earning decently, is told to invest early. So he dives into a market he doesn't understand, unarmored, exposed, with no fallback plan. He loses his footing, not because he is unintelligent, but because he entered with no formation, no emergency fund, no risk parameters, no defined goal, only momentum. Momentum without direction is not bravery. It is chaos. A woman, skilled and hardworking, begins a business. Her idea is sound. Her energy is fierce, but her formation is loose. She overspends on appearance. She hires before cash flow. She markets to everyone and no one. And the enemy called overhead bleeds her dry. Formation would have saved her. But formation is boring. It's quiet. It requires time, planning, control, and so most skip it. They confuse formation with hesitation and pay for the mistake with their freedom. Let me speak clearly. Hesitation is fear without structure. Formation is control with intention. If you build slowly, methodically, with clear lines, that is not delay. That is discipline. You are not falling behind. You are preparing to strike with precision. There is no shame in restraint. There is no weakness in readiness. The weakest army is not the one that waits. It is the one that moves first without formation. I remember a battle where my forces were outnumbered 10-1. My advisors panicked. "Strike now, while they're unprepared," they begged. But I looked at my formation, not the enemy's. We were not yet aligned. Our rear units were overextended, our supply lines thin. We could not hold the victory we might earn, so I waited. Days passed. My soldiers trained in silence. We restructured, shortened our line, realigned our flanks, tightened discipline. When the enemy finally advanced, we didn't just hold, we routed them. Victory begins long before the enemy arrives, and wealth begins long before the opportunity comes. Your formation is how you behave before the raise, before the deal, before the inheritance, or the windfall, or the bull market. Do you spend the same at $1,000 as you would at $10,000? Do you allocate with the same discipline when the stakes feel small? Do you rehearse your strategy in peace so that it holds under fire? That is formation, and that is what separates the truly wealthy from the temporarily rich. Anyone can stumble into money, but to keep it, to grow it, to command it, that requires formation. It is how you move when no one is watching. It is the rules you set when no one is forcing you. It is the stillness you choose when the world demands movement. You don't need more. You need better. And better, like any great formation, is built in quiet repetition, again and again, until it is not something you do, it is who you are. You do not form discipline in war. You bring it with you. And wealth, like war, reveals your formation. It does not create it. Many believe that one day, when they have enough, they will become responsible. When they make 6 figures, they will start saving. When their business scales, they will become strategic. When things slow down, they will get organized. But that is not how warriors win. That is how soldiers die. Formation is not reactive. It is preemptive. If your formation is chaos at 100, it will be chaos at 1,000. The number is irrelevant. What matters is the shape you hold, under pressure, under temptation, under victory. Because even winning can destroy the undisciplined. I have seen more armies fall after a victory than after a defeat. Why? Because their formation loosened. They celebrated too early. They believed they were safe. They stretched too far, and the counterattack shattered them. So it is with your financial rise. You get promoted. The income doubles. You believe the problems are gone, but you haven't changed your behavior, only your budget. You spend more because now you can. You buy upgrades, not assets. You expand lifestyle, not structure. And now you have further to fall. The man with poor formation at $50,000 will have worse outcomes at $500,000 because now the mistakes are bigger. Formation is not about restriction. It is about direction. You can enjoy your wealth, but enjoy it from a place of command, not confusion. Every soldier in my army knew their place, their function, their timing. That is why we moved like one body, 1,000 spears with one intention. Do your dollars move like that? Do they have position and purpose? Do you know where your next $10 go? Or do they vanish into the wind of your mood? Formation means pre-deciding what your money does before it tempts you. It means you've already trained your army, your budget, your rules, your behaviors, before the next paycheck lands. Because if you don't command your wealth, your emotions will. And your emotions are loyal to comfort, not to conquest. Formation protects you from yourself. It is the shield between your long-term vision and your short-term desire. When I say you need better formation, I don't mean more rules. I mean clearer intent. A system that reflects what you want to build, not what others expect you to show. The enemy in modern finance is not lack of information. It is comparison, noise, distraction, and the illusion that you are behind. You're not behind. You're scattered. Your resources are split between too many directions. You're responding instead of directing. You've built a camp, not a command center. So rebuild. Start now, quietly. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to read 20 books before you begin. You need one decision: to lead your money like a general, not a gambler. Draw the line. Establish your base, your essentials, your reserves, your non-negotiables. Then build outward, layer by layer, like a fortress. Spend not for display, but for position. Save not to feel secure, but to increase mobility. Invest not to chase, but to command. That is formation. And the sooner you master it, the less you'll depend on fortune. Because formation, unlike fortune, can be controlled. Do you know why I always inspected formation before morale? Because formation reveals the truth. A soldier may cheer in the morning, but if his shield is tilted, if his unit is misaligned, if he forgets the command signal under stress, he will break in battle. Emotion fades. Formation endures. And so it is with money. You may feel confident today. The paycheck just arrived. The market is up. The plan is working. Or so it seems. But when a surprise expense strikes, when the market turns, when the numbers tighten, what happens? Do you adapt or do you collapse? Only your formation will decide that. I do not fear a storm. I fear a loose roof. I fear the foundation left unchecked, the hidden weaknesses disguised by sunshine. This is how most people live, exposed but unaware. They mistake stability for luck. They believe the absence of pain means the presence of strength. But wealth, like war, is a game of exposure. The cracks do not appear when all is calm. They appear under pressure. So check your formation when things are good, not after they fall apart. Do you know your fixed costs? Do you protect your future from your present self? Can your structure absorb a 20% loss in income without collapsing? If not, don't wait for hardship to teach you. A wise commander trains for winter in the summer. He drills in times of peace. He hardens his lines not because he expects defeat, but because he refuses to be surprised. And this too is the mindset of financial power. Not fear, not hoarding, but preparation. Let me be clear. Better formation is not about restriction. It's about responsiveness. The better your structure, the more freedom you have. When your expenses are lean, you can take risks. When your emergency fund is in place, you can walk away from manipulation. When your investments are diversified, you can sleep through volatility. This is not theory. This is command. The enemy of financial peace is not risk. It's fragility. A brittle system will break, not because it was wrong, but because it was disorganized. You cannot afford disorganization. Not in a world that changes daily. Not in an economy that moves like a shifting battlefield, with algorithms replacing foot soldiers, with media campaigns shaping perception faster than bullets, with new technologies collapsing industries overnight. In such a world, your only edge is formation. Do not imitate the loud. Do not chase the flashy. Study the resilient. The man who endures wealth is rarely the one you see on stage. He is the one with quiet consistency. He doesn't panic. He doesn't sprint. He holds his formation even when others lose theirs. You will see them, the ones who spent when they should have saved, the ones who tried to impress instead of prepare, the ones who bought bigger when they should have built deeper. They fall, not loudly, quietly, one missed payment at a time, one unreviewed expense, one over-leveraged position, until their entire life becomes a retreat, not because they lacked money, but because they lacked structure. But not you. You will build your formation before you are tested. You will move only when aligned. You will invest with command, not excitement. You will spend with precision, not emotion. And when the chaos returns, and it always does, you will still be standing. Not because you're lucky, not because you're gifted, but because your formation was never about today. It was built for war, and war always comes. There is a truth I have carried since the earliest days of war. Strength is not speed, it is structure. And yet the modern world worships momentum. It chases trends like a commander who gives orders based on wind direction. One day, crypto. One day, real estate. One day, e-commerce. One day, panic. This is not strategy. This is noise dressed in armor. Real formation doesn't chase. It positions. It observes the terrain. It understands its own strengths. It calculates not just how to win, but how to survive after the win. Let me ask you something. If you doubled your income tomorrow, would your structure be ready? Would you know exactly where that money should go? Would you have clear proportions, clear targets, clear boundaries, or would you let the money guide your emotions? Because the truth is, money without a plan will follow your weaknesses. It will inflate your appetite. It will obey your laziness. It will amplify your indecision. You don't become someone else just because you earn more. You become more of who you already are. So if you are scattered, wealth will accelerate the scattering. If you are disciplined, wealth will magnify your discipline. This is why formation comes first, before the promotion, before the business succeeds, before the strategy pays off. You must be the kind of person who can hold command over growth, not just spark it, not just enjoy it, hold it, steer it, direct it. When I prepared my men for battle, I trained them in silence first. No applause, no rewards, no blood yet, just repetition. Hold the shield like this, step like this, turn only on the third signal. Wait until you feel the shoulder of the man beside you before you move. Again and again. Until it was not training, it was instinct. This is how you must train your financial formation. Not when the bank account is full, not when the new job starts, not after the bonus arrives, now, in silence, with what you have. Decide your percentages, your priorities, your thresholds, and then obey them like a commander obeys terrain. Your emergency fund is your rear defense. Your investments are your forward scouts. Your essentials are your base camp. Your luxuries are reinforcements, used only when the core is safe. And when you break the line, when you spend from the wrong account, when you violate your rules, when you compromise, do not justify it. Discipline requires correction, not explanation. You are not building a budget. You are building a battalion. Every dollar has a role. Every account has a rank. Every movement must be aligned to mission. Because if you think the enemy is just poverty, you're mistaken. The real enemy is chaos. Inside you, around you, in every advertisement that hijacks your desire, in every voice that tells you just this once, in every friend who normalizes waste, in every fear that says you're missing out. Formation is your shield against all of them. It gives you direction when the world pulls you in 1,000. It gives you patience when others rush. It gives you sovereignty because a man with strong formation cannot be manipulated. He does not beg for raises. He does not panic in recession. He does not overspend to belong. He does not explain his moves. He prepares. He holds. He strikes when it's time. That is wealth. That is power. That is formation. When I say formation, I do not mean rigidity. I do not mean locking yourself in place forever. I mean fluid structure, like water flowing through stone walls, not spilling over them. Formation is not about limitation. It's about focus. A river without banks becomes a flood. It spreads, it destroys. But with banks, that same water can power cities. And so it is with your income. Without formation, it leaks into impulse, into vanity, into noise. With formation, it flows into freedom. Most people believe freedom is the absence of rules. But I say, freedom is the presence of the right rules. Self-imposed, self-honored, self-tested under pressure. Because when the storm comes, and it always comes, you do not have time to create formation. You only have time to execute it. If your mind is not trained to resist, your wallet will surrender before you even know it. That is why every decision you make today is not about money. It is about posture. Every swipe of your card trains either your leadership or your indiscipline. Every ignored budget line strengthens either your formation or your excuses. Every time you tell yourself, it doesn't matter, you weaken your stance. And eventually, it's not about the money anymore. It's about who's in command, you or the battlefield. There was a time I stood before my soldiers and said, "A man without formation will cry when the arrow falls. A man with formation will not flinch, because his mind is already at war, even in peace." Are you at war with your comfort? Or are you surrendering quietly, little by little, to the lie that one day it'll all click? One day is a myth. Victory begins now, not with money, but with alignment. Let me give you clarity. Your wealth formation should answer 5 commands. Where does my first dollar go? Always. What percentage is untouchable, no matter the temptation? How do I adapt in lean times without breaking formation? What signal tells me I can scale? And how do I scale without collapse? Where is my blind spot? And who helps me see it? These are not questions for rich people. These are questions for commanders. And if you do not ask them now, the enemy will ask them for you, in the form of bills, emergencies, regrets. I do not want you to be rich for a year. I want you to be unshakable for a lifetime, and that means building a formation that grows with you. Not one that cages you, but one that strengthens you. It must flex with life. It must respond to terrain, but its discipline must never crack. You may adjust your investments. You may expand your operations. You may shift your goals. But your core formation, your clarity, your structure, your values must be carved into stone. Because when wealth arrives, it does not build your character. It exposes it. And if you cannot command $100, you cannot command 1 million. The amount only changes the size of the battlefield. The war is the same. So build like a strategist, not a sprinter. Know your terrain, study your patterns, learn your limits, and then create a formation that holds you upright no matter what direction the arrows come from. Because when your formation is right, you don't fear the future. You shape it. There is a question I ask every warrior before battle. What are you defending? If you cannot answer, you are not ready to fight. And I ask you now, what is your wealth formation defending? Is it your peace, your time, your family, your independence? Or are you just building out of fear, afraid to fall behind, afraid to look poor, afraid to be judged? Because formation without purpose is just confinement, and eventually you will abandon it. But when your formation is built to protect something sacred, you will hold it, even when tired, even when tempted, even when no one is watching. I once watched a young soldier carry his broken shield for 2 days. When asked why he didn't discard it, he said, "This shield has stood between my brother and death. I will not drop it while he still breathes." That is formation. It is not just about discipline. It is about devotion. And until you understand what your formation protects, you will never sustain it. So choose your reason, and let that reason shape your rules. You don't save because you're scared. You save because you never want to be owned. You don't invest for status. You invest so your time can belong to you. You don't budget to suffer. You budget to prioritize freedom over impulse. This is not minimalism. This is strategy. And strategy does not ask, "What do I feel like today?" It asks, "What move brings me closer to sovereignty?" You see, the world is full of men who look rich but are owned by debt, by pressure, by image. They have more money, yes, but no command, no clarity, no endurance. Their formation is noise, and it breaks at the first sign of contraction. You must be different. You must build a formation so clear, so simple, so intentional, that even in crisis, you do not guess. You execute. This is how I trained my army. I did not prepare them for every possibility. That is impossible. I prepared them to respond with rhythm, no matter what came. And that's how you should prepare your money. Do not try to predict every future event. Do not obsess over market cycles or try to calculate every scenario to the decimal. Instead, build systems that respond automatically. A portion of income always goes to reserves. A portion always flows into long-term growth. A portion is protected, untouched, untouchable. And your mind? It stays alert, not paranoid, alert. It knows that markets fall, that jobs shift, that governments lie, that economies change. It knows that wealth is not the absence of risk. It is the presence of readiness. And that readiness is forged in formation. The tighter your formation, the fewer decisions you have to make under pressure. The fewer decisions, the fewer chances to break. And so you become unshakable, quietly, not because you are perfect, but because you are prepared. And those around you, they will not understand. They will say you are rigid, that you are missing out, that you should enjoy life. But they do not know what you are building. They do not see the command post inside your chest, the general you have become. So let them talk. You keep forming your lines. You keep reinforcing your defenses. You keep executing your rules. Because when the smoke rises, when inflation hits, when job cuts come, when the panic sets in, they will run and you will remain. And that is what true wealth buys. Not status, not applause, but peace under pressure. A man once asked me, "Master Sun, what is the best time to build a fortress?" I answered, "Before the enemy knows your name." And the same is true for your wealth. Build before you are tested. Build before the storm. Build while you are underestimated. Because once the world sees your strength, it will come for it. They will call you for every opportunity. They will offer you fast returns. They will ask you to vouch, to lend, to partner, to scale. The flood will not come when you are empty. It will come when you begin to rise. And if your formation is not solid, you will lose what you built. So I repeat, build early, build quietly, build strong. You do not need applause. You need armor. You do not need more income. You need clearer lines. You do not need more followers. You need stronger filters. A true general does not open every gate just because the visitors are smiling. He decides who may enter, and when, and why. You must become the same with your money. Ask, what am I defending? Ask, what am I allowing in? Ask, what will I never compromise? Because once you say yes to everything, your formation is gone. And without formation, no amount of resources will protect you. I've seen kings bankrupt. I've seen emperors lose empires not to war, but to disorganization. Their court was too crowded, their treasury too leaky, their advisors too loud. And then it was too late. They had wealth, but no war readiness. And war is not just swords and siege engines anymore. Today, war is mental. It is emotional. It is fought in boardrooms, browser tabs, and blinking notifications. It is fought when you scroll for dopamine instead of reviewing your ledger. When you say, just this once, to a purchase that breaks your principle. This war is constant, and only your formation will protect you from losing to yourself. So ask yourself now, do I know where every dollar sleeps? Do I have a plan that breathes, not rigid, but responsive? Do I have rules I do not break even when no one is watching? If the answer is no, begin again. No shame, no delay. Start with what you have. Map your terrain. Choose your system. Choose it so clearly, so simply, that you cannot be seduced by anything else. Because a man with formation is hard to distract. He knows what he's building. He knows where each move fits. He may not be flashy, but he is free. And freedom, not fortune, is the highest prize. Not needing the loan, not fearing the crash, not begging the system, but standing alone by structure, by clarity, by choice. That is the wealth no tax can touch. That is the empire no thief can steal. That is the victory no one can see, but everyone feels when you enter the room. Because your formation speaks louder than your words. There is a silence that surrounds the disciplined. It is not the silence of uncertainty. It is the silence of control. The silence of the man who does not need to broadcast his plan, because he lives inside it. The silence of the strategist who moves with precision, not permission. You see, wealth built in formation does not need to prove itself. It stands on its own. It does not chase status. It does not react to pressure. It holds. And those who move without formation, they talk loud. They justify. They explain. They celebrate too early. They panic too often. Their lives are full of noise, not because they're confident, but because they're exposed. I have sat across from emperors whose armies crumbled because they confused expansion with control. They gained more, but without structure. Their foundation cracked under their own growth. And I've seen peasants become power, not because they were lucky, but because they learned the rhythm of reinforcement. They learned that formation is not a one-time decision. It is a daily return to clarity, a morning review of the terrain, a nightly check of the defenses, a habit, not a high. They did not wait for permission to begin. They began in the shadows, quietly, with no applause, with no guarantee, just a clear map, a consistent walk, a refusal to fold. And now I ask you, will you build the same, or will you keep chasing, flinching, guessing? You do not need to predict the future. You need to survive it. You need to meet it with calm eyes and prepared hands. The man with formation is not faster, but he is always ready. He does not swing at every target. He moves only when his foundation is aligned. He does not need perfect timing, because his system absorbs setbacks. And that is the edge you need. Not speed, not secrets, formation, because the world will tempt you endlessly to break it. It will show you others who made it without structure. It will whisper stories of fast wins, of shortcuts, of exceptions. But those are illusions, because every victory that ignores formation eventually becomes a defeat. And when that happens, those who once mocked your caution will envy your peace. They will come to you in the aftermath, asking how you held, how you remained calm, how you didn't lose what they did. And you will say nothing, because formation doesn't speak. It stands. It doesn't beg to be seen. It doesn't compete with chaos. It doesn't demand recognition. It simply holds the line. So start there. Not with brilliance, not with noise. Start with the decision to build a structure that cannot be moved by mood or trend or fear. Start with one rule, one discipline, one act of command. Then do it again until the war comes and you don't need to react. You only need to remain. In the end, I will not ask you how much you made. I will ask you how long you held your ground. Because wealth is not the prize. Endurance is. The man who endures becomes ungovernable, not by rebellion, but by readiness. He is not shaken when prices rise. He is not cornered when work disappears. He does not kneel for loans or favors. He moves through crisis like a veteran through rain, not because he enjoys it, but because he expected it. And what allowed him to endure? Not talent, not luck. Formation. He positioned his life like an army. He trimmed excess. He shielded his weaknesses. He delegated his strength to systems, not impulses. He built not just for profit, but for permanence. And now I ask you, not as a soldier, but as a sovereign, will you build your formation? Or will you wait until the battle begins? Will you lead your wealth as a general leads troops? Every step calculated, every retreat strategic, every advancement aligned? Or will you keep wandering the terrain without a map? The enemy is not far. It wears many names: inflation, temptation, comparison, convenience, ego, shame. It creeps into your home through habits, through silence, through unchecked emotion. But it cannot breach a mind that has drawn its battle lines. So draw them. Define your essentials. Fortify your reserves. Assign your resources like units in a campaign. Test your weak points. Patch them. Drill again. Because when you do, your income will stop feeling fragile. It will become force, not because it has grown, but because it now obeys command. This is the art. This is how we win without shouting. This is how we build power without spectacle. And if one day you look back and realize you never had the biggest paycheck, or the flashiest tools, or the most connections, but you held your ground when others lost everything, then you will understand what I mean when I say, you don't need more money, you need better formation.